Yeah.
I understand the words that he's saying, but not in the order that he's putting
All right, folks, we're
together.
gonna get started. So,
and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Okay,
So
before I start talking about, people saying bad things about you, I would like to know how many of you have actually know this rule that unhappy customers talk more than happy customers?
yeah.
Everybody? Okay. How many of you have ever dealt with negative publicity spoken, online somewhere about your business or the business of the company you represent? Anyone ever? Okay, so it's quite relevant to the audience as a whole. So my presentation is exactly about this: what to do when someone, usually a customer, unhappy customer, goes online and says something about your business, saying he's unhappy because you did something to him. So before I actually start talking, a few words about me. I started as a marketing expert at CyberSucks, which is a web hosting company. That was about 8 years ago. So I had quite a fair share of dealing with unhappy customers who speak, who go out there and say something about CyberSucks online. Not all of the things I did back then were so successful, so I had some screw-ups and some, things that turned out well. And based on that experience, I know, to get my way around and what to expect in a certain situation. I also, at some point, became a customer service manager. And at that time, I was dealing mostly with unhappy customers who say things internally through your internal communication channels, who would say they are unhappy, but they would not yet go online, and they would talk in-house. So based on that experience, I get a bigger picture of how customer thinks, and it all starts in-house. Currently, I'm the COO of the company, which means that I tend to supervise both these things, both the publicly outspoken negative feedback, if such, and the in-house one, those that they say to your customer service representatives. And I'm also the bad one. Because of this experience that I have, I tend to get very angry. This is probably the only thing that would actually piss me off, is when I see a customer who is unhappy and because of something we actually did, like bad attitude or a major screw up because someone wasn't careful or wasn't doing his job well. So I'm famous for that in-house. I have 2 witnesses here to support that. To explain this thing, why I care so much. It's a basic equation. The things people say about you, no matter whether they're good or bad, they're actually like a drop in the sea, and they build your reputation one small step at a time. Anything matters. Everything that goes out there about you is important. Your reputation, on the other hand, helps you make sales. If it's negative, obviously it takes away from your marketing powers, because people will stay away from you because they hear that you're a bad provider of whatever service or product you offer. If it's good, it obviously gives you credibility. And I always imagine the reputation as someone that goes around and helps me refer sales. Because, especially in our business, referral has been the best marketing tool ever. For those of you who don't know, this is the lowest cost per acquisition thing you can find. So it really matters, it really helps you make sales with them at the lowest cost. And it helps all other channels as well. So a few quick tips how to know what people say about you. These are the things I use when monitoring the SiteGround brand. Google, the first thing, and I strongly recommend you to add a Google alert for your business name, your company name. For those of you who haven't done it, it's a pretty decent way to to stay track on a daily basis and to know what comes out on a regular basis. Monitoring things like your company name plus reviews plus feedback plus opinion, all kinds of keywords that could actually a person would actually use in order to find you. Like if I'm looking for hosting, I would go around and I would type hosting reviews, or I would type SiteGround hosting, and something will come up in Google. You should monitor these sites. You should know what people say there. Anybody whoever has had this thing, like his company name and sucks or something bad out there, spoken about the company? Yeah? No? Not yet? Okay, maybe someday. A few years ago, that was super popular. For pretty much all the hosts had it. For various reasons. Some of them, unhappy customers obviously launched them. Some of these customers were actually trying to sell the domains. They would register, in our case, cybersucks.com domain, or .org, I don't remember. And they will, do it for various reasons. One of them, that were really angry. They would actually want to build a community around that thing, hoping that it will grow and, they will take us out of business. Others, they would do it because they want to sell the domain, as I said, because they think they have leverage. They want to actually manipulate you in a certain way. So once your business really grows, that comes to illustrate that you will meet more and more negative publicity, and it will become more and more complicated to actually deal with it. And it matters. I strongly recommend you to watch industry-related sites, what people say about you. For example, for us, the Joomla forum for SiteGround, as a hosting provider, Joomla forum is important because we know what our Joomla users and our Joomla customers say about our service and how we stand as opposed to other competitors and other people who provide the same service. Facebook and Twitter, also very important, although it's already old news, especially Twitter. It goes in and goes out very quickly, but still it's interesting. Sometimes big discussions could be formed there, so it's important to know. It's important to know immediately. TweetBeep is a good way, tweetbeep.com is a good way to actually add an alert for the things people say about you on Twitter. So whatever you do to monitor your site, I recommend you to do it often, to do it on a regular basis. Daily is my suggestion. Now, before you take any action, you should prepare. Before you decide what to do in a situation when someone has said something bad about you, there are a few steps that I strongly recommend you to take. And the first one, the most important one, is to investigate the case. If a customer has said, if it's really a customer, and he has said something bad about you, there is a story before that. And this story starts in-house, with your own communication channels. Something happened to that customer, and whether he was right or wrong, you should find out where exactly it traces back to. What happened to him? You want to be prepared. If you're going to go out and say something public, no matter what it is, you should know that this customer might actually react to your comment, or someone might react to your comment, and you want to be the last one speaking. You want to be the last one with all the facts out there and ordered in a way that is good for you, that is convenient for you, and that will actually leave the impression to those who read the post that you know what happened and you're explaining it with cold facts. Facts that gives you credibility. Second point, understand the real pain. What I mean about this is that all this negativism, when it happens, it's very psychological. The angrier the customer is, the more it is about attitude. It's much less about what you actually did to him. For example, your service failed for some reason, or your extension wasn't working. That's okay. That screwed up his site for a while, but his problem, if he's angry, his problem is not because for the only sake of the fact that your extension was badly written. It's because you treated him, or the way you communicated with him usually made him angry, because you didn't handle it in some moment correctly, and he didn't feel it's right to him. So it's really important when you read a statement to watch out how it's written, what he says, and to try to find keywords that actually explain the cause of his frustration. Because when you write back, or if you decide to write back, it's important to you to address every little detail and to know what you're actually trying to achieve with your comment. To what you're trying to give us. Sorry.
A very important question to me about the code on don't let
Okay.
go to
Right.
And I'm always in doubt if to answer really fast to an exception, for example, to an email, or to wait, for example, the day after.
It very much depends, but I usually recommend to act quickly.
Quickly.
Usually. But it depends on the case. If it's out there already, what will happen is other people might start reacting, and if they're also unhappy or they agree with this negative thing out there, they'll start adding to the comments. And at some point it becomes like a chain.
I'm saying just an email without comments in the web. Just this. For example, I don't have a marketing company.
Okay, what is your business?
Web agency.
What?
Web agency.
Oh, okay.
And for example, a client writes an email and says something against what we did.
Against
And,
what?
Against what we did.
Okay.
Our work.
Okay.
Many often, I'm really in this crisis between be quickly in answering, but think in myself, or wait, for example, for one day and.
Oh, you mean the emotions? Yeah, the second one then. Yeah, for sure. What happens with us is we see a negative thing written out there, and the first reaction is emotional, He's not right, it's not like that as he says it. And you're really frustrated at this moment. And if you write immediately, usually your words they have the effects of the emotion. And it's not convincing, and you don't usually use the facts well, and your words don't come out so well when you're under the effect of emotions. So in that sense, yes, I recommend you to wait until some time has passed and you're looking at it more objectively and more unbiasedly.
Because the tendency is to think about I want to resolve the problem quickly.
Yeah, but
Here too.
yes, in that case, yeah, better wait. Yeah. So we already discussed point 4. Point 3 was synchronize internally. This is like if you're going to come out with a statement, make sure that everybody within this organization that you represent knows what you're going to say and is going to re-echo the same thing, because otherwise what happens is, for example, you say we didn't do anything wrong because of this and this, and then the customer comes to anyone, for example in-house, and starts talking to a customer representative of yours, and this customer representative says a totally different story. We didn't do anything wrong because of totally different facts, and the customer is like, okay, where did this come from? You just told me that because of that you didn't do anything wrong, and now there is this other story that you're using. It's totally spoils it all for you, because the customer will go back online and he will say, they just lied to me. They just told me a totally different story. You never want to do that, never. And you never want to lie to the customer ever, even inside the company or publicly. If you're going to explain, make sure you use the right information and make sure you're saying the truth. There are ways you can say it, obviously. There are nice ways you can say it. There are ways you can say it so you look well, but make sure you're not lying. So I've separated the rest of the presentation into 2 parts. The first one, strategies to counteract in case there is already something online. And the second one is preventive strategies, what to do in order to actually in order to make sure that you get less of those negativisms online. My first strategy is very simple, but I've noticed that it actually works like 90% of the time. I'm supposed to use this one. It's just explain. And what is important here is that use facts and do it in a friendly tone. If you're going to write something online publicly, you never want to argue. You never want to sound as if you are trying to diminish the value of the comment of the person who actually posted this bad thing about you. You want to sound as if, I'm just saying, the facts are this and this. You used some part of the facts, now I'm offering the other part of the facts. And I'm not arguing. I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just explaining my point of view. The example that I'm using is very typical in our industry, in the hosting industry in general. Very often, I've seen comments not only for SiteGround but for other providers. A customer will go out and say, I have this very small website, it hardly gets 100 hits per month, and my host just stopped my website because it overloaded the server. And okay, these are facts, right? Totally facts. When you go back there and you investigate the story, it actually is like that. He has a small website, really 100 hits per day or per month, sorry. But and it did overload the server and he did stop the account. But the history, the other part of the facts, is usually there's more into it, is first that just a week ago, for example, this customer with this very small website has uploaded a script on his website, on his account. And this script is so badly written that it actually starts loading, makes, for example, heavy MySQL queries, or it's in a way looping, and the server, and he's overloading the server because he's using too much CPU in a given moment. And in a shared environment where this small website is located, the way the server resources are managed and distributed among hundreds of customers is really important, because if one customer is using, say, 100% of the CPU, of the processing power of the server in any given moment, this means that all the other 100 customers will not be able to open their websites, or will not be able to do anything with their accounts. So what matters is that shared hosts try to actually limit the usage of these server resources in order for all customers there to get their fair share. And this one, for some reason, whether he was knowingly or unknowingly did it, happened to overload, indeed. And the other part of the story is that usually he was warned. He got a warning before his account was stopped, and he got a very, very long explanation what exactly happened and how to resolve the problem. And because he didn't take action, in our case we offer 7 days usually before suspending the account, he didn't take action for 7 days, the account was, and the problem continued, the account was suspended. So what I'm saying is, he has his facts, you have your own facts. And if you explain nicely, if you explain your part of the facts, chance is that first the customer will understand, and second, those who read his comment and your comment after that, they will, if they are reasonable, they'll say, okay, it makes sense, it's not so bad as, he's trying to make them look, because there's something else into it that is really, it makes sense, that's all. And he won't be, making it a problem out of nothing. The other strategy that I more rarely use, but still is very important, is to apologize and to say that you actually you're grateful for being informed about the problem. And that's usually the case where you really did a mistake. You made a mistake. The example I'm going to use is probably more relevant to the community as a whole, because SiteGround, we made this extension, JHackGuard, which is a security plugin. I don't know how many of you are using it actually and know how it works, but I don't know, some months ago or a year ago, Brian Tiemann and some other people started a post where they were discussing this JHackGuard thing, and they were complaining that it's actually not working. And Brian said the extension is so badly coded that it tests for things without checking the context and, more other things. okay, very bad, this could kill an extension. And we were like, is it is it really true, That was the first thing you should worry about. Is he right? So we tested the extension, and he was right. We were wrong, it was badly written, it had its own problems. So what we did was, first thing, we fixed the problem. We rewrote parts of the extension so that it starts working properly. Second, we went online and we said thank you, thank you for reporting, and we fixed the problem, and we hope it will work from now on. Test it, tell us, we would like to get feedback back. And the third thing that I didn't put in writing here, but it's important to learn from this mistake, It's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to repeat them too many times, So what we also did is internally, before this post, we weren't really supporting very actively the extensions that we have, nor the templates that we design, because we have both. Since then, on a daily basis, we do maintenance. We watch what people say about this. We test everything very often. And we make sure that we never ever go into this situation again. Because it actually kills our reputation, What are you saying? You're saying that you're launching these free things out there because they're free. And instead of, bringing any value to your reputation, they're actually killing it, They're generating negative feedback for you. So what's the worth then? Compensate the customer reasonably. Now, your service really failed, that's the story, whether it was your fault or the fault of your providers or whoever fault it is, doesn't really matter. The example I'm going to use is hard disk failure. I was shared on a server, it doesn't matter which one. Very common scenario, because as you all know, hardware fails, any machine could fail anytime, and it happens once in a while. So what we do in these situations, pretty much all hosting companies have terms of service. In these terms of service, their lawyers have taken good care to make sure that they will never be vulnerable and that they will not be liable for too much damages. So if you read the terms of service, a hosting provider is usually obliged to compensate you for example, a week of downtime with a few hours of free service or something like that. And you can imagine if you're in a position that of a customer who was on that server with a broken hard disk, and you have just spent, for example, that would not happen, but let's say you have spent 2 days, without your website or with your website not working because of this hard disk thing. And you're thinking that this provider is the total crap, It's just so sorry that you ever signed up with him. And if we start saying, we'll compensate you with just a few hours of free service, or no, even better, wait on 1 year so that we could actually estimate what's the overall downtime, and then compensate you for whatever downtime you ever had. So what you'd like to do in such a case is be reasonable and show the customer that you understand the problem, and that the compensation you're willing to give actually reflects the value of his pain and the damages he actually suffered. So I'm not saying it's always like that, but in many cases, in case of a hard disk failure, we will, for example, offer months of free service, and these months could be from 1 to I don't know how much, depending on the damage and depending on the situation. What it comes to say is that we understand, because we are in this position as well. We have our providers, and our providers fail once in a while for various reasons. So we also do the same. We are angry. We ask for. We go say it somewhere. We expect something to happen out of it. And if our service providers, just tell us, well, we'll take care of it and give you this, $100 back. It just doesn't compensate, because a hard disk is worth, say, 100. I don't know. You just don't feel compensated, and it's about the psychological effect you want to achieve. You want to make the customer believe that you actually care and that you actually compensate him for what he experienced. And that's the moment when I'm saying make sure you read and you understand his real pain. Because his real pain is not that he was without a website for 2 days. His real pain is how you handled it, how you told him the story, and what you told him before.
E-commerce sites sometimes do tens of thousands of dollars a day.
Yeah.
So you're down for a couple of days.
Yeah, it could be.
So I don't know, in the hour, you lost $30,000 in sales. It's not 3 hours of work, of course.
Yeah, there is this trade-off at some point because we usually never happen, for hard disk failure, especially to have like 2 days or 3 days without downtime, but without the website. But there are situations when the downtime could be longer than reasonable 1-2 hours fix or even less. Depends. So these are you have to take it case by case, and you have to consider the customer's losses, but you also should be careful to what extent you go compensating, because after all you're a service provider, and this customer he runs the risks of his business on his own. You know what I mean? Like if his business is so important, he could go redundant in a certain cloud. So I'm saying you have to watch out how much you offer in terms of compensation, and you don't want to assume his risk. You want to be reasonable from where you stand, because on a shared server, you don't expect customers losing hundreds of thousands of dollars on a daily basis.
Also, it's good out paying for an upsell.
Yeah, it's also true. But you don't want to do it just right now, Know when to stop explaining, or sometimes just don't say anything. It's usually the case when by saying something it will make you look even worse than you already do. It's because you either don't have the facts with which to defend, or it's just that's the situation, But also there is the moment when you explain, and at some point you just have to know when to stop. I will use the same example with the account overloading the server. Let's say the customer placed his comment online somewhere, and you responded, saying the story with the facts I already said. And then this customer comes again, and he uses the information in a slightly different way, but practically saying that he's not happy with you, because you stopped his account. So you might respond one more time, trying to also reword your facts using pretty much the same information, because I assume you already used all your information, all your facts in the previous reply. But you have to give up at some point. If he persists and keeps on doing it, you cannot go on doing this forever. You cannot keep on replying and just using the same information, because that actually diminishes the worth, and it starts looking like this constant argument that just leads to nowhere. And never forget that when you're writing anything in public and trying to address a problem in public, you actually care more about what a third party will think, and not what the customer himself will think. Because if you want the customer to be happy, you could talk to him internally. You could send him an email. You have his data. You can find him in another way. You don't have to do it publicly. You're doing it publicly because this means that other people who read his comment, are engaged in this story, and you want to address, their concerns, and you want to leave a good impression in their concerns.
If you decide to stop the conversation, do you create a closing post?
I'm sorry, what's a
Do
closing?
you create some sort of a closing post?
It depends. Sometimes it's just not needed. Or sometimes yes. I usually prefer not to leave it open, like the customer, expecting through his tone or the way he wrote it. I would usually say that we don't see any, explain again, try to repeat the basics of what I already said, and say that, if you want us to continue doing this, you could come and talk to us internally, because it just doesn't make sense yeah. I prefer closing, but not always. Sometimes there's no need to put such kind of approach. So the other set of strategies that I prepared, these are to try to prevent situations like those that we've already discussed, when the customer has already made it public. The first and very important thing is to monitor the early signs internally. Usually the customers, before going public, they complain in-house through your internal channels of communication, and be grateful that they actually gave you a signal and you could actually act upon it, because they helped you know, they told you that there is a problem, and they warned you that they might get so frustrated that they will go online. So just do something about it, What works very much for us in-house is if the customer is not happy, and we have OR managers, customer service managers, monitor that kind of bad conversations with the customer for some reason, or unhappy customers. We make our customer service representatives report, customers who are for some reason frustrated by anything. So we evaluate the situation and we follow up. Just the mere fact that a manager followed up, sent you a note saying, I investigated your case, I'm really sorry for what happened, let me explain and let me do this and this for you, let me resolve the problem, or let me give you a compensation. Sometimes you could do it here, on time. That helps a lot. And it just kills the problem, makes the customer happy and converts him from unhappy customer to happy customer, not just, kills the anger. The other strategy that is very much related to the first one is to give him an easy escalate option. Let's say he's angry with your customer service representative, and he wants to talk to a manager. Usually he will say, I want to talk to a manager, but even if he doesn't say it, you could give him channels to do it, channels to actually click a button and, contact a supervisor or someone above, higher level. And what I have noticed is that usually bigger part of the anger goes away just because of the fact that he's connected to a manager, to a higher level employee. He feels, okay, they have the time to take care of me, I'm not like just nobody, I'll never get someone to take care of my problem, I feel good that, someone with more power, more authority will actually resolve my problem now. And he'll give me a reasonable explanation. Why not, if not possible? So, easy escalation, you can do it whatever channel, I don't know, your channels, but for example on chat, you can have a button, transferring the chat to a supervisor, during the chat, live. Or you can have, like in a help desk system, you can have reply button and escalation button. That these are the options we use, just probably more relevant options. Another way to channel the negatives is to let customers rate you and follow up bad ratings. It's pretty much like follow-up, based on the strategy with the follow-up, but you let the customer tell you that he's not okay with what you're doing, and when he tells you, you know the negative ratings, you monitor them, and you could follow up. That's another way to actually help him inform you that he's not okay. Motivate clients to say good things. As I said, both bad and good things that are told about you online matter to your reputation. So you want the good things to prevail. It's not like the more you grow, the more negative feedback you will get overall. It will grow, it will not shrink. So you want to actually counteract it by pouring positive reviews from customers who are happy, because you have such, to counteract the negative ones. And what I would recommend is sometimes your representatives or you will talk to a customer who says, yeah guys, you're so great, we really like your service. In such a case, you could always close the conversation by offering him, or you could, in the conversation, you could offer him to write a review about you somewhere, Would you, or you could ask for his permission to use his review on your website or wherever you feel you need to. So when he's happy, that's what I mean by using the momentum. He's happy, and in the moment he's happy, and for some reason he's telling you he's happy, or he's happy, ask him to do something for you in return. Because it matters to you. It gives you credibility. It helps your reputation. The second one, organized campaigns in Facebook and Twitter. These are very marketing specific and very much depend on your type of business, what exactly you're doing. But it's not a bad idea to consider special holidays like Thanksgiving, where people say thank you. You could ask them to tell you why they're thankful. You could make a game asking them for their feedback. And you could make it public in Facebook, in Twitter, wherever you like. That is a way to generate positives, within a short period of time, but still it helps, it stays out there online. Do things right and search for more ways to do them even better. That sounds like so, common sense. Because the basic conclusion is if you're doing things right, there won't be anyone complaining, right? But there is one more thing to it. If you do things right and your customers know it, they are very likely to act upon it and defend you when you need them. Even before you made a sign, you've told them that you need it. Because I've seen that a few times. I don't have a good example here, but a customer would say something bad, and then other people from his community who are happy with us because they like the service and because we do things right, they will go after him and they will say no, that's not true. You made something you didn't understand, or for me it works. They're so cool. I don't have this experience. And that would totally kill the bad thing, and it will kill it in its roots. Because it's even more credible than you going out there and saying anything. Because a real person who has a real experience did that for you. So, that's pretty much it.
How do you handle if a customer communicates with you using email or some other private channels, and in public they have other facts. They just don't tell all the facts. Do you use the things you use in the private conversations as well?
You don't want to go out and paste comments, but he told me this, because it looks cheap in a certain way. It's like below below the impression you want to create. You want to create the impression that you use the facts and you're cool about it, and no matter what he says, it just doesn't really matter. He's small, That's how you want to make it look. So I wouldn't recommend you doing that, but I would say something like, and maybe the customer actually was happy about it because in a previous conversation, and he did mention that he was okay with this, or maybe because he renewed already 3 times with us, he stayed with us. Maybe it wasn't a problem, until now. You know what I mean? Like not citing his the things he told you privately, but referring to the broader sense of what he did and said earlier.
What about negative videos as pop-up first?
What kind of
negative
negative videos?
Pop up on Vimeo or YouTube.
Yeah.
Right there at the front.
I don't have a good one for this. We have one like that. We have this magenta guy, and he had this super bad review about SiteGround on a video. We didn't do anything about it. We just thought it's one of those moments that you can't post a comment to, you can post a comment to a video, but it just doesn't, it's no worth, you know. People rarely read the comments, they will watch the video and they will run away. So you either have to post a good video, you know, or just don't do anything. So we've actually had a campaign some time ago, I don't remember when exactly it was, asking customers to make videos for us, you know. So when you search on YouTube, SiteGround in our case, or your company name, and not only the bad ones will come up, you know? And that will dilute the negative.
How do you manage blackmail sent by customers to receive free service?
You mean spam sent by others?
Blackmail, so they try to get something for free and they tell you, if you don't do that, I will post that.
Yeah, they're not so direct, you know, but yeah, you get sense. You show them you don't care, you know, like it's more about the way you write your reply, you know, the way it sounds. That's the psychological part, because the extortion is quite psychological, you know. He thinks he has the leverage. You show them you don't care by either using your facts in a way that shows him he's, you know, not in such...
You reply, you do not ignore.
No, I wouldn't recommend it to ignore. Well, it depends on your case, you know. You can give me a more specific case and I can be more specific, but I don't think you should ignore. It's bad. I think it's bad customer service not to reply to your customers, especially if they send you email. You know, I think you should be more concerned about replying in general than, you know, just having this kind of extortion. But I'm interested to hear more about it.
If somebody comments on a public thread and you know the person, do you recommend? Is it okay to call the person directly and then do a post, or does that kind of violate? Is that a little threatening?
Actually, we do. We sometimes try to find the customer and try to find out why he was so frustrated. Because sometimes there is the other thing into it. If you find him and you talk to him and you calm him on the phone, it's very likely that he goes and he says, I'm okay now. You know, that has happened a lot. So. Yeah, it doesn't violate, you know, as long as you're saying the same story everywhere, you know. It's like, if you're making one of your employees to call him, make sure he's, you know, already prepared with all the facts and with your version of the story. So it's the same message.
We talked quite a bit about allowing customers to escalate. At what point are you just disempowering the first level support?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
At what point are you disempowering the first level support? Are you negating any of their power by making it easy to escalate?
No, I don't think you're negating. You know, we recently redesigned our help desk, and we made this escalate button very visible. And exactly this thing, we were very worried that most customers would actually prefer to escalate, you know, but that didn't happen. You know, people actually take it for what it's worth. You know, if they're happy with your customer service rep and he's doing a good job, why escalate? You know, and you don't show the escalate button upon the first post. You know, for example, if you're using help desk, you let him post his question or his problem. You get the reply, and on his next post, you show the escalate button. You know. And I've noticed that if 2 replies of your representatives are not working and not fixing the problem of the customer, you better get involved. You know, I'm very often, that's what pisses me off if we didn't catch it on time, very much. Because you know what I mean, we monitor and still, you know, it might be too late and we catch it too late.
Yeah, your first level support tries to work too hard sometimes.
Yeah. Try very, very hard. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Anyone? Okay, thank you. My next slide.